Wednesday, we're going to have the developers of Slay the Spire on from Megacrit, who have like the best story ever because all of us have done this. At some point, in your younger days or even, in your older days, you sat down with some buddies and said, we should make a game together.
Yeah.
We should do something. Only these two guys actually did it, and it sold over 1 million copies so far, and it's still in early access. So that'll be cool. That's next Wednesday. And then, and tomorrow's the Kitty and Guy in a Suit from the Hidden Levels.
Hidden Levels. Yeah. The Hidden Levels. That's awesome. Everybody missed my whole witty retort about the AARP. But
the reason I was laughing so hard is because Indy's been invited to the AARP.
Yes, it's a gang. You guys didn't know? It's a biker gang.
It's a walker gang,
A walker.
Yeah. So, and then in the news, before we get to the news, we've still got our giveaway. We're giving away one of our PC publisher guides. It's got, a nice walkthrough and tips on how to pitch to publishers and, how to go about finding the right one, some of which we're going to cover today.
And it's valued at?
It's $750.
Nice.
But it's got information on 250 some publishers. And this week, as soon as I can get to it on my to-do list, we're actually launching our mobile publisher guide, which has got like 400 mobile publishers in it.
Oh, wow.
So it stops short of giving you, their email addresses, but because, we'll piss off Europe if we do that. But it's got the website for the company, their LinkedIn page. If it's PC, it's got their Steam page, how many games they've launched on Steam. If it's for the mobile stuff, it's got their iOS store, their Google Play Store, as well as a link to App Annie for that company. It's all the information that you need to go and start finding the right publisher for your game.
But not enough information where you can just copy and paste all those emails and BCC them and say, hey, publish my game.
And you know what? If you do that anyway, you're never going to get anywhere. Yeah. So it's like, it's a waste of time. That's like going and blanket emailing every streamer you can think of for your strategy game that a lot of those streamers aren't going to play.
Exactly.
So what do we got in the news? What's exciting going on?
Top news. Okay, well, this doesn't really have, it relates. It relates. Let me pull up the news here. Amazon, here's an article on Forbes. And you know what? This has been coming for a long time. How Amazon Twitch TV cheats music creators. Here we go. Bam. I'll post a link right there. So it talks about how people just use music and they shouldn't on Twitch without permission. Let me, I'll pull up the article right here, actually. Let me close my bookmarks menu. Close all of this stuff. There we go.
So basically, you get in deep trouble on YouTube if you are, playing licensed music without permission, but Twitch is pretty much just like, let it go for, ever.
Yeah, because it's up to the company to file a claim. It's not it's up to the musician or the whatever to file a claim. It's not up to Twitch to enforce that. They would be enforcing all that stuff. As long as you're not recording. Doesn't have anything to do with recording. If you're making content from it, period. And it's a long time coming. I mean, what Twitch does if there's something in their database that they see that is maybe infringing on a VOD, they will mute that part of the video. But otherwise, I mean, like right now, if we were playing music that was, Faith Hill or whatever it is that we're playing, they could totally sue us. I don't know. That's just the first thing that popped in. I was looking at your hat and I'm thinking, oh, Tim McGraw. And
no, this is from our not a sponsor, Appalachian Mountain Brewery.
Right.
I figure if I keep plugging them long enough on this show, eventually I'll get a free keg of beer.
Do you want to lower your camera just a little bit? A little bit.
A little bit.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah. There we go. And oh geez, my allergies, of course. Oh, So that article is basically from an attorney saying, look at people are cheating, but there's ways around that. As a content creator, you can use things like Monster Cat, which twitch.tv/Monster Cat. They also have a website. You can use certain playlists. You can get direct permission from musicians. Right now we're using music that I made, and there's also something called Pretzel Rocks, where there's quite a few things that are already made for streamers or YouTubers to use, where you don't have to have permission and do certain things. So, but just playing whatever music you want on Pandora is a big no-no. And they're just going to get cracked down on. I mean, a lot of people use like little clips from a famous song for their music or their alerts or whatever. And
I think, and I'm not a copyright lawyer or any kind of lawyer, actually, but isn't there like you can use like 3 seconds of something before you get in trouble for it?
Yeah, there's like a certain amount of time. Yeah. But then it also depends on how it's used. Like if you repeated it over and over and over and over and over again, it would probably not be good. But it's it's really up to the discretion of if whoever wants to enforce it. Because I can play whatever music, but if they're like, we don't care, or they don't want to enforce it, then, so it's kind of one of those things. And people say, oh, well, I'm promoting your stuff. And this leaves us on to another section that we were talking about earlier, is maybe a game developer doesn't want you to stream their game for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And you were telling a story about that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a friend of mine who is at a publisher, and a streamer. It wasn't, PewDiePie or anybody, but it was a fairly prominent streamer, reached out and said, we'd like to stream your game. Can we get a key for it? And he just bluntly replied, sure. How much are you going to pay us? Because, in his mind, he is providing content for their show for free, and, he said, we're promoting our game. The guys, we're going to promote it. He's like, well, we're promoting it. It's an extreme example, but I know from, experience that there's at least one publisher that's taking the stance on it.
Nintendo used to big time.
Yeah. I mean, and they fell back on it, but, and Indy and I disagree, but, I feel in the upcoming years, we're going to hit a tipping point in that relationship between developers and publishers and streamers that's going to set off something. And we've already seen it with, Campo Santo and PewDiePie, where, they put in a DMCA or DCMA or whatever they are.
DMCA take on, yeah.
Yep, for him. And so it's going to get to a point where it gets contentious. You've got streamers that are, asking for, big bucks to play some of these games. And right now, it's publishers and developers are willing to pay it because it's a better outlet. But as we see more things come along, more options, things like streaming it on, streaming your game in the Steam store, for instance, there's going to hit a point where this stuff has all got to balance out, because it's still very much, the Wild West. Yeah. Go out there and do what you want to do, and hope somebody doesn't get pissed off. But
I don't disagree with that. Where'd you say I disagreed?
I thought you said,
I was saying that laws are going to have to adapt and change. Is all I was saying.
Well, yeah. But it's going to get a point where somebody's going to go too far, and it's going to get everybody's attention, and there's going to be a crackdown.
Well, this big article right here, it's on Forbes. So if that doesn't grab some people's attention that don't know anything about Twitch, it certainly is right now.
And that's what, kind of surprised me about that article, because, Forbes is...
Thank you for the follow.
They are very much involved in the game industry. There's a lot of articles about the game industry that come out in Forbes, and then they start using quotes on words like, streamer. And I'm like, I don't know if it's somebody a different division of Forbes or if they're trying to reach a different audience, but the content of that article seemed odd to me. I mean, the tone of the article, more likely.
like this right here. Fourth, many streamers feel entitled to play music without permission under the belief they are actually helping artists by giving them exposure. Famous artists and songs do not need free promotion from Twitch broadcasters. They are already famous.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that perspective, but that's kind of a snarky, kind of a bitchy way to say it.
That's why, it was.
Thanks for the follow. Yeah.
It wasn't so much the content of the article, it was just the tone the article took was kind of surprising to me. But anyway.
Like she says, it's time creators stop feeling entitled to steal from and deprive each other of the fruits of their labor. And I understand that perspective, but it's also time for the old music laws to adapt and change because times are different now.
Yeah, it is.
Times are different. Yep. So something's going to happen.
I want to see what happens when a streamer finds that their stream has been used by the publisher without their consent for marketing purposes, and how that goes over. If that streamer isn't happy about it, so to speak.
I mean, why? Oh my God, you're using my content to my Well, we're helping you get your content out there.
So I'm that's the next step that I'm waiting to see. I mean, and there was if you ever watch the Chappelle Show and the bit he did on Prince about the cooking the pancakes after they beat their ass at basketball, and Prince came back and actually did a song about making pancakes in the morning, and on the cover of the single it was Dave Chappelle. It was a clip from an image from the show with Dave Chappelle dressed up like Prince, and it was after Prince died, and Chappelle was on some talk show, and they're like, so what do you think? He actually used your image to promote his song, and even though it was all tongue-in-cheek, and Dave goes, that's some Prince judo there. He's using his own, when you use your own sarcasm against you, what are you going to do about it? And so, it's like,
that's funny.
That's what I'm waiting for, a streamer to take offense or be upset that a publisher or a developer is using their stream or clips or their IP, so to speak, without the streamer's knowledge or in a way that the streamer's not happy, and see what happens when that happens.
That's funny. There was an instance that happened with me. There was a site that was coming up. It was another streaming site. And I happened to know one of the people that worked there, but I went to look at the site, and you know how all streams have a little image or whatever of the streamer. All of the images on this site were of me, and I'm like, what the hell is all of the streamer images? I'm like, I didn't give permission to use that. I thought it was kind of weird, but I mean, I said something and they took it down because it was like, if it would have been something that I was, it's like a DMCA takedown. You can do this stuff unless you're making content about me or whatever in a way that I dislike.
You can use it unless I don't like the way you're using the rights that I'm using for free from somebody else in the way I don't like.
Something
Other than
like
that, it's fine.
Something like that. Well, I did a DMCA takedown of this guy. I was live streaming. He was live streaming. He came into my stream and recorded himself harassing me and everyone in my chat and thought it was funny, and then posted it on YouTube. And so I did a DMCA takedown. The man, he was pissed off of saying I did it illegally. And then he just said my mom's address in a live stream and all kinds of just messed up stuff.
See, that's when you go.
He got banned on Twitch, but then he got banned on Hitbox, then he got banned on YouTube, and then he got banned on Twitch again. But that just shows what kind of. And then he would just go on Twitter on these rants about how terrible of a person I was, and I'm like, you know what? If you want to see who the terrible person is, look at both of their Twitter feeds and see if they're positive or negative, and then make your own decision. But so I did a DMCA takedown, and because he was using my content in a way that I didn't like that he was using it, and it got taken down.
And that's the thing to keep in mind about this Amazon. Amazon's never going to enforce it. I mean, Google doesn't enforce the YouTube stuff. You have to make a complaint. And so, it's going to be always on the shoulder of the musician, the game developer, the publisher, whoever owns the content that is being used to, monitor it.
Yep.
And to make sure that, nothing's going sideways on it.
Exactly. That's how come those takedowns happened with PewDiePie on that game. I don't think it was the content he made with the game, but it was the fact of his content. And then I don't even think it was in videos of the game that he made the content they didn't like. They just didn't like his content, so they did a DMCA takedown. After it even said on the website, anybody can use our content to but they still got the DMCA takedown.
I want to know, and I'm gonna ping some of my industry lawyer friends if EULAs have adapted and put stuff in there to cover streamers yet. I mean, I don't read EULAs, and I know that 98% of the rest of the world doesn't read them either. Hence the South Park episode where they realized to download a song on iTunes, you agreed to be part of the human centipede. So, and so
I remember that. That was hilarious.
It's a great, metaphor. It's just like, you have no idea. You're just clicking OK because you want to play the game. You're not like reading this shit. I'm gonna reach out and see if there's any. If
we agree to take and sell your information online to everyone that wants to pay for it.
Pretty much.
Yikes.
Exactly.
Good stuff. All right. So what do we got
next?
here?
I got too many tabs open.
I know. The giveaway, is it the one that's right up here? The one right above everything? Is that?
I can't see where you're pointing.
The new giveaway. Is that new or is that different?
No, it's the same one from last week. We're gonna have a different giveaway next week.
Okay.
So yeah, it's still for the an entry in the to get the publisher guide.
All right. Do you want to talk about the new giveaway?
Not yet.
Okay. That's what I was getting at.
It's not time yet. And I'll also say, if you win and you don't make PC games and you want the mobile game guide, I'll give you that one instead. I should probably update that to be either one of now that the mobile
either or.
Done. Yeah, either or. Yeah. All right, so what's next?
Speaker submissions for Casual Connect China due by August 17th. Casual Connect China. I want to go to China.
When you can teleport me there, I'll go.
Yeah, that's like a 15-hour flight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I have nothing against going to China, and I would, be happy to go, but I don't want to be on an airplane that long. And speaking of China, before we go to what we were to what was next, I don't know if I can find the link fast enough, honestly. There is Reddit's been hacked. That's interesting.
Everyone's in trouble.
Yeah, that's news that popped up. So apparently China has stopped stopped processing the codes that you have to publish your game in China. And, everybody's, one of the theories is that it's just part of the escalating trade war between, the U.S. and, well, frankly, everybody. But it's not something that I've seen hit our main press. It's something that I saw, on a friend of mine's, why does everybody decide to call me the minute we go online? I saw it on a friend of mine's, LinkedIn feed. I didn't see it like in, any of our industry press. But given how much China has contributed to the sales of, games in the last 12 months, especially, Megacrit is a, wonderful example because they had a huge amount of sales come out of China. If China has cut off that, flow and is not letting any new games from, the West be published in China, that's going to be a pretty big hit, to sales in the industry.
Yeah.
And I can't find the thing fast enough. I'll dig around into it. If I can find it, if I can
dig it, find
it at some point, I will, tweet it or post it or do something. Anyway, yeah, that was my.
I'll do something with it.
I'll figure out something. I'll look at it and then forget to send it to everybody. That's what I'll probably do.
Yeah, so this is the Casual Connect lecture session form.
Yep.
Oh, the proposal, it's also for Serbia 2018. Submissions are due. Oh, that one's already done. July 13th.
Yeah, and if you're not subscribed to the feed that Akupara Games does, I would highly suggest doing it. They've got a link where you can go and you sign up, and then when these competitions, they'll send you a heads up on competitions for indie game submissions or from speaker submissions, that sort of stuff. And there's so many shows and so many conferences and all the stuff going on,
Yep.
indie game competitions, it's hard to keep track of. And so, yeah, if you can.
How many Casual Connect
list,
panels have you done?
3 or 4 over the years. I did one in Seattle last year. On I can't find that either. I did one on Seattle last year on different funding ways. It was me and four other folks from the industry. These shows are good. I mean, and they're great. And when you get if you've got something unique to bring to the masses, I mean, they don't fly you out, but they will absolutely. You get a free pass to get in. You get an all access pass.
They pay for your hotel room and stuff, right?
Sometimes.
I think that's one of the things.
It depends on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I got flown first class to Europe to give one time. I got one of the shows, I don't want to say who, one of the bigger shows did put me up in a hotel last year for a lecture I was giving. So yeah, I mean it's good exposure.
I'd rather fly first class.
Dude,
and then pay for my own hotel.
To go all the way to Europe, first class, it was nuts. And the thing is, I put it out there as a joke. I was like, yeah, I'll come if you fly me first class. And they were like, okay. I was like, oh, wait.
You're all, hell, okay. I'm going to do that from now on. I'm saying that every single time. Every time I'm saying it.
Boy, it sucked the next time I had to fly. It's like, I don't want to be back here. I want to be up there. But yeah, if I can, that's another link I will try to find. And I know I posted it in one of the indie game Discord servers, but I can't find where it is at the moment. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Next one, new publisher, Skybound. Are they new?
Skybound, so no,
8 to 10 titles. 8 to 10 titles a year. I mean, I've been seeing emails from them for a long time about their different.
Well, titles. I mean, they've always been a comic book publisher. I mean, they're the ones that do The Walking Dead.
Maybe that's the emails I've been seeing from them.
And the guys that started it came from the industry, and so no, they're not new. And the fact that they've been, quietly looking to publish games, or they may have even published some stuff or co-published it over the last few years, but they brought in the guy who started 505 Games, in-house, and so now it's more of I would call it a refocus and rebirth almost. Now they have Ian Howe is the guy that came in from 505 Games, and so now they are taking it a little more seriously, and nice. Where they were looking to publish something that looked good that came along the line. Now it is something where they said, okay, we're doing this and we're going to do 8 to 10 games a year.
Helsing Interviews, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, here's what he says. We can take an IP and really take it to the next level. We have a first look deal with Universal for movie development and a similar deal in TV with Amazon. That's insane.
It's good, but a first look deal just means that those two companies get to look at whatever they have before anyone else. So it's good in the fact that they've got a good relationship with those two companies. It's bad in the fact that, they're not able to shop it around effectively. They have to show it to Universal and Amazon first.
Oh,
So it's not a completely bad thing. But
pros
it's
and
not like,
cons.
oh my God. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, Iceland. I was so pulling for you all in the World Cup. I mean, because we weren't in it. And if we were, we wouldn't have done much anything anyway. So, yes. Sorry y'all didn't win because I was like really seriously hoping you would.
Lies.
So, all right, yeah. What's next?
What's next?
We constantly get distracted.
We have coming up next on the Indie Game Business Show. Dun, 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 Nintendo reports 88% hike in profits on strong sales of Switch. They've sold nearly 20 million units. PS4 is 79 million. Launched from November 2013. Xbox is between 30 and 40 million. I'm going to post that.
Yeah,
right
so
here.
the second half of that was me being proactive earlier today and actually putting notes in there on why I put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they're seeing strong sales. They announced earlier this week that they're almost at 20 million units.
Yeah.
But it's hard without context to understand what that means. And Xbox stopped releasing their sales figures, basically shortly after the PS4 started beating them profusely. But we know from things like EA's revenue calls and other publishers along those lines that at least through the end of 2017, Xbox was selling one console for every two that the PlayStation sold. And so look at this, and it's not, none of these are steady growth. I mean, they have a drop off, but the PS4 has been out since 2013. The Xbox came out the same year, and the Switch is already up. That's 5 years, and in a year and a half, the Switch is already up to 20 million units. So I mean, it's going to surpass the Xbox One. Unless Xbox does a drastic drop on the price of their console, which is not unheard of.
Right.
They've got a lot more going on the streaming side than anyone else does. With their back catalogs and all this kind of good stuff. PS4 has a streaming service, but I don't do it anymore because you have to like sign up for one service and then sign up for another one, and it's like I didn't even want the first one you want me to sign up for. I just want the second one. So it's like I'm not spending $30 a month, to play these games. And I would foresee, come Christmas, we're going to have a big drop on the Xbox One cost. But the Switch is, in the next year and a half, the Switch is going to overtake the Xbox. I mean, that's just a fact. That's my call.
That's your call. Helsing says, do you guys make games?
Do we make games? I used to. I don't do it anymore. The
EMS streaming box. Yeah.
So the backstory, Helsing, I've been on the business side of the industry for 20 years. And so I worked as an agent for 7 or 8 years. Then we transitioned that company into a publisher. When I left there, I started, my first startup, which was a production company. So we basically did publisher and developer work. And then I went and worked for a developer for, all kinds of good stuff. And then I started this company, and now we're consultants. Voice, I don't know. I know there are agents for voice actors. I don't know.
I do a little bit of voice acting right here. Yeah.
You're not voice acting. You're just using your toy.
I could talk like that.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume, and what little I know about voice acting agents, I know because there was a kid several years ago who was in high school where we used to live that made this gigantic, huge splash on the internet because he could, in a ridiculous range, and he could, imitate pretty much anything. And I know he ended up in New York, and he has an agent and all that kind of good stuff. So I know they're out there, but I don't know. I couldn't point you in the right direction other than say, Google it.
Let me Google that for you.
But I will say, and I've got a friend of mine who's just started voice acting too. And my first piece of advice to her was to get on Discord. There's a lot of, indie teams that are on Discord, and you can make some really good connections and really good introductions that way. Yes, we're on Discord. We have a Discord. I'm not even typing. I'm typing somewhere else.
I got it.
There you go.
I was quick.
Did you win?
I won. We gamified it.
Yeah. So that's an invite to our Discord. But I would highly suggest doing that and then looking over into some of the bigger sites, like Heine's.
Publishers and game developers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Love Gurley.
Heine's got a great site. I don't have a link to it right now, but he has a fantastic one.
There's Discord databases too. You can.
I lied.
You lied.
I lied. There you go. That's Heine's. And he's got a big one. And then the other one that is...
A lot of game developers on there.
Yeah. And publishers.
Yeah.
Our friend Bjorn over at Game Dev Company has one. Check him out. But there's a lot of them on there. You just, kind of need to...
Look.
Get out there and find them and get involved, because I see folks, just when we're on there, asking, for voice actors or people who are voice actors saying, here's where we are and this is what we need type thing. So that would be my absolute first step for you.
Well, first step would probably be put together a demo or different demos and at least a site to showcase your stuff so you can just link people right to it. All right, what do we got next here? We've got, I think it's time. Oh, you got a demo reel. Nice. Right.
Wait,
it's time.
Is Div in here? Div, are you here? Because we're doing this at your request. Let me see. Is he online?
Let's hear it. Let's see. Link it up. Helsing.
We don't mind if you shamelessly plug it.
Yeah, link it up. Let's listen.
Ah, man, I don't see him online. So here we are. We did this
just for
at his request.
That's okay.
All right, let's watch the video now. All right, so have you got it pulled up?
Do I have what pulled up?
The deck, the presentation thing?
Yeah. Post a link. That's what I was saying. Post a link. Link it up. I want to see. Let's do this demo reel first, real quick, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Let's see.
Because you're assuming I know what I'm going to talk about anyway. Ha.
Okay, let me pause this.
My name is Eva.
There you go. There's a link.
What are you linking?
Oh, he put the link to the demo reel.
Oh, I thought you said. Never mind. Okay, here we go.
Don't ask me hard questions. I just work here.
My name is Eva. My name is Eva.
And then we'll get right into finding the right partners for your company, for your project.
My name is Eva. My
Did you get lost?
name is Eva.
Andy.
No, I'm just listening to the thing.
Oh, well, you're listening to it. No one else is.
My name,
Oh, I think
No,
I
everyone's listening to it.
my name is Eva.
I don't hear it.
My name
Because
Oh, that's because I don't. Never mind. See, 2 months in, I'm still completely lost on the streaming thing.
right. I would have to say that it just sounds like you're using a voice changer, which, I mean, really.
I can do it too. I can just use this voice changer and
I can hear that.
You can hear that?
Mm-hmm.
my name is Eva. My name is Eva. My name is Eva.
That's not a voice
Alright.
changer? That is really your voice? That's some crazy high pitched stuff. I would say my advice would be also there also. My advice would be to look at there's got to be some things online about
Yikes.
about how to do demo reels.
My name is Eva. My name is Eva.
Sitting here watching outside because it's been raining so much, and it's been raining for like the next 3 days.
Yeah.
That I'm waiting for part of our mountains to slide down the side of the mountain again.
Yeah, definitely just look at some things about how to make demo reels for voice acting, because I don't think just saying my name is Eba or whatever it is, it would be very effective. Yeah, definitely do that. Look at it. It will tell you, like, first you got to figure out what game it's going to be for or what type of game. And then you do a little bit of research into what type of characters they're doing, and then just kind of, I think a demo reel should target the kind of studio you're applying for, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see.
Because there's going to be big differences.
Yeah, there's going to be huge differences. So you don't want to do that voice if the whole game is everyone is talking like this. Then there's probably not a room for something that is like that. So you wouldn't want to submit those high-pitched voices to a game that's looking for people that do voices like this. Okay, here we go. Full screen mode. Ooh, there we are. Nice. Dum dum dum. Oh, wait a minute. Put a little bit of music back on again. There. All right. And there we go. We're up. We're live.
No, we're good.
Finding the right partner for your project.
So yeah, whether you're now I can like lean back. I didn't know I'd still be on here. I was going to get really relaxed. No matter what you're doing, yes, a lot of indies are going to have to go find a publisher, but it's whether you need something like a voice actor or music or artist or one of the umpteen million types of consultants we've got in the industry now, the probability of you being able to do everything internally is like next to nothing. So what we've gone through and done is we're going to talk about how to find the right partners, and that goes a little beyond publishers, because we're just looking at things in general here. So first you've got to figure out, like everything else, you need to figure out what you actually need. Do you actually need a partner? Where do you need it? This is just all this slide is just what we're going to cover. So we're going to cover, do you need it, finding a partner, qualifying it, and managing the partner relationship. You can go to the next one, Andy. When it comes to games in particular, you've got to be able to understand what you're good at and what you're not, because that's where you're going to need the most help. So whether it is funding, design, development, marketing, any of the stuff that we have right there, or if it's a matter of, you've designed a great game, but you need a coder or, an artist, you've got to understand what your strong points are and be honest about it. You can't, you can't go in with that, I can do it all mentality, because you can't, and I know that from watching other studios do it. I know that from starting my own company, twice. You can't do everything. So you've got to understand not only, and I said pain points, because it's not only what you're not good at, but quite frankly, the stuff you don't want to do either, because if you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it well. If you get to focus on the things that you or your studio enjoy doing the most, you're going to have a better product, especially since you can go out and find somebody who enjoys doing the stuff that you don't like doing. So, identify those pain points that you have, and, weaknesses. And then also, understand your budget and limit. And if your budget is nothing, you're in trouble, because, to get good help on stuff and to get good partners, you're going to have to budget for it. That's just the reality of it. If you look at, my firm, I don't like doing, the bookkeeping aspect of it. I mean, I'm not good at it either, but I really hate doing it. And so, I would find that I would be putting off, closing out the books and doing the financials because I just didn't want to do it. And that was one of those things that, yes, I could, but I didn't want to. And so we went out and we got a bookkeeper, and when it came time to, start drawing up agreements internally, I have 20 years of experience reading through contracts. I can build a publishing contract from scratch if I need to, but I'm not a lawyer, and there are nuances that go into all of this that I realize, I can't do. It's easier when I see, a contract coming in from a publisher for one of our clients, I can go through there and flag all the, issues that I see, but then at the end of the day, I send it off to their lawyer as well. So it's one of those things that you have to be honest with yourself and you say, okay, maybe I'm not as good a designer as I thought I was, or maybe my art isn't, the way it should really be at the quality level for XYZ project we're working on.
Or maybe you need someone to research stuff.
Yes. Oh, data entry is a huge one. I mean, Indy and I both use, a variety of sources for, data entry stuff. And, I've got different people that I use based on the type of data entry that I need. Because, the other aspect of that is it may not be worth your time, to sit down and do it. Is my time, better spent a half day of going out and looking for new clients or, working and helping the clients that we have, or is it spent copy and pasting email addresses, from a website? There's where you got to kind of figure that stuff out too. And if there's somebody that can do that for, $10, $15 an hour, or $15 total, depending on, whether you use a specialist or you're going somewhere like Fiverr, that's what you need to know. And it was one of the, to be blunt, it was one of the hardest parts when I was growing, my company, because I think I did everything, pretty much on my own for like 2 years. And then it started getting to the point where I was like,
screw this.
I can't keep up. Yeah. I was like, I can't even keep up with this, much less. And so, I was, fortunately for me, unfortunately for her at the time, Jennifer, who I had worked with for years, was looking for a job. And so I just picked up the phone and called her and I was like, "You looking for a job?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, meet me at the coffee shop tomorrow morning. We're going." And she came in, all dressed up with like a notepad. And I was like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Look, we're going to do an interview." I was like, "No, we're not doing an interview. I know you. I know you're awesome at this. You're hired. Let's go. Let's get this stuff done." You have to be able to realize your own weaknesses, whether it's your own or it's your studio's, and then, build out that list from there. And yeah, if you build out a list of like 90% of the project and you have a budget that's going to cover like 20% of it, you're going to have to do some, some adjustments in there somewhere. But, that's a key part of, starting that process is understanding what you aren't good at or what you don't like doing, and, understanding what you are good at. So, the next step is going and building that list of potential partners. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it depending on what you're looking for. And we've talked about publishers in the past. I mean, you can go to guides like the one we sell, but you can go to Gama Sutra. You can do Google searches. You can go on Steam and on Steam Spy. Back in the day when we had a lot of retail business, one of the main things that we did when we traveled overseas is go to a couple of stores in those countries to see, who was actually publishing titles in those territories. You just pick up the box, there's somebody's logo that you don't recognize, write it down and go contact them. Watching on LinkedIn, paying attention to the news, going through trade show attendees. I mean, if you were to look at my screen right now, I've got the exhibitor list for Gamescom open. I'm not going to be at Gamescom, but they've got their exhibitor list, on their site for public consumption. So, we're going through and basically data mining that as a basically check, to make sure that there's not somebody that we don't know about that's come up, or somebody's changed their name, or are they looking for something different? You are going to have to do a lot of good research on this to find a good partner. The amount of research just depends on what you need, but it's, constantly stay up on the news, look and understand who does what well. We had a client just this week who had a PR firm, and after 4 months, the PR firm just wasn't doing what they needed to be doing. And it wasn't because they were a bad firm, it's because their specialty was in a different segment of PR. And so, they were let go, and they're in the process of bringing somebody new in to do it. So, just because a contractor or a company is good at something, you got to remember they're not good at everything. So go out there and find the folks that are good for what you're doing. And when we talk about this, when we're looking at publishers too, it's some people will look at a publisher and say, I have a strategy game. They do a lot of strategy games. I don't want to compete with their internal projects. But that's not the way you need to be looking at it. You need to be going to, those places that focus on and specialize in the type of game you're going to do, because the marketing between a game that is going to, free to play Clash of Clans type game, that's a different type of marketing than something that's going to, what was the game that we looked at the other week, Andy? The House Flipper, where it's
House
actually,
Flipper.
it's targeted at a more casual demographic. And so, just because someone's good on one end, a publisher's good on one end doesn't mean they're good on another. Glue just came out, the other day, and, noted that their revenue was way up after it's fallen down, because they've had a new string of games that appeal to typically women over the age of 35. And so that's where they had all that success with the Kim Kardashian game. And then they tried to, replicate that over, Britney Spears and Demi Lovato, and I don't even know who else, and it just didn't work. But now they found a new, avenue into that same market. That is their, core specialty. Yes, you can go and sell them a sniper game, and I think they have one. They have a hunting game on their site. But, if I've got a mobile game that's free to play, that's aimed at women 35 and older, Glue is going to be one of my first stops, because I know that's what they're really good at. So, when you're looking at how to start building the list and where you can go, we've got some stuff on there, but when you've got that list and, as you're narrowing it down, you need to be going to their website. You need to be Googling to see what kind of PowerPoint decks you need to, be taught. There's so many ways for us to communicate as an industry now. Between email, Twitter, LinkedIn, Discord is huge now. Pick up the phone and call somebody. I know it's a revolutionary idea, but those actually work. You have to go out and really start researching to see who's doing what, because a lot of the nasty stuff that happens in this industry, and developers that get screwed over by publishers and, this type of stuff, it doesn't happen in the forefront, because one side or the other is afraid they're going to get sued. There was an article I read this week where a developer was talking about his publisher, and he said they were great, but they were late on every single payment, every single one, all the way through. They were late. And, he can say that because if they were, they were. It's like you can't be sued for, basically telling people what the truth is, unless you've got some fancy NDA in there that you're covered. But, it's a matter of, you've got to do the grunt work, to get out there and research something, and just Googling and saying, oh, look, they've got 6 projects and their, average rating is 86, so they must be great. That's not good enough. You've got to get in there and, look at who they've worked with and call, those people. And so as you're doing this, the simplest way to do it is a spreadsheet. I'm not looking at the screen. I'm not sure how far along the lines you are, but
research everyone on your list.
Go to the next one.
Okay. So
a spreadsheet is the easiest way to do all this. And that's what we use to this day for a lot of the stuff that we do for clients, but it lets you go through and put different factors in there, years in business, how many games have they done? What are the reviews for those games? What are their, how many views are their games being, getting on Twitch and YouTube? What they're going to cost, factor all of that information over your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and what's important to you and to your company. And then, put a grading scale on there. Obviously it can't be all 1-to-1. You're going to have different types of, information in there, but that's going to give you a more accurate look at what that partner brings to the table. So at one of the developers that I worked with years ago, we had an opportunity, grading sheet when it came down to, we did a lot of contract work. And so when the contract came in, when the RFP came in, we would run it, everything from, what the profit would be to the time it was going to take to get it done, how many people were going to have to be on the project, and one of the, X factors in there was, is this something that's going to take the studio up to the next level in terms of visibility, or, is it a big name IP that we're going to work on? What is that little X factor that needs to go in there? Because you can run the figures on, this is how much we're going to get paid, this is how much we're going to spend, your basic profit loss chart, but you also need to find a way to incorporate the intangibles in there. We did the same thing with, in my agency days in client triage. We would come through and we would be looking at a lot of games. And, even as we grew that company up to 10, 15 people, you can't take on everything. And so, we had a scale that we went through and we would put in there and say, this is the value, this is the triage, this is the score that this particular opportunity's got. It's one of the first things I did at my company was sit down. It took me an entire day, and I built a huge spreadsheet, that when someone comes to us and says, we need you to do outreach for a publisher, or we need you to do, find us an IP for a game, I can plug that in knowing, our internal costs and, what we have to see in profit and all of these things along those lines. And it spits me out a number at the bottom of it. And yeah, it took me a full day to get it done, but that's really not that big a deal, in the spectrum thing, because it's something that I still use 7 years later, to get it done. So, put the data down somewhere you can look at and compare it, because you don't want to get caught in, an immediacy bias, or, you get big love eyes because a publisher or somebody that you really wanted to work with all your life is interested in working with you, when you might just turn around and find out that they're the worst possible partner for you. So, once you've got that information and you're able to, ideally you're going to start out with, and let's just throw out a number here and say 15 different partners, and you can narrow that down to 5 or 6. You don't need to be doing the deep core dive on people until you get down to that 5 or 6. But then that's when you have to go, and get super serious about it. So you've got the data that you've already researched. Hopefully their track record is in that initial spreadsheet that you've done. But then you're starting to start looking at things like reputation. Are they going to have a budget? And beyond budget, it's, are they paying people on time? Like the developer that was having the issue the other day. Are they being respectful of your time, basically? Are you a cultural fit? And is this company a strategic fit? And that goes back to, what I was saying earlier with the, is it a good opportunity that can take you up to that next level? I don't know, pop out the chat here for a second. There we go.
Chat's good.
You can use all of this to actually, make the framework of your agreement. Because by doing this level of research, you're going to find out what some questionable aspects of that company may be, and you can plan for it in an agreement or pass it along to your attorney to, for them to put in there. But, you have to do all the basic stuff that we talk about a lot on here. If you're doing a development deal, you got to make sure you plan for change orders, and you have rules in there for change orders. I said, at one point we were talking, and I said we had a client that we worked with who kept sending all these like little itty bitty, teeny tiny change orders. Oh, it'll only take you an hour to get it done. And finally, I just looked at them and said, the next time you send us one, there's going to be a fee attached to it. I don't care if it's a 5-minute fix or a 5-day fix. There's going to be a fee attached to it. And all of a sudden, these little changes stopped showing up. It was amazing. So you've got to have all this stuff and be ready. If you know that a partner is going to be difficult in some way, shape, or form, and you can account for it up front, do that. But make sure you do the research, on Reddit. I mean, there's companies that, and individuals in this industry that I'm pretty sure we all know or have heard of who have, they have a lot of exposure and everyone knows who they are. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll find out there's a lot of, shady stuff about those people as well. And so you need to go into this with your eyes wide open, so do the linking, save that information somewhere. We use Pocket to save a lot of articles to what we call like a knowledge base. So a lot of the stuff that we link in our chat and, in our Discord server and Twitter and everywhere else, we save that, internally. So, when I sit down and go, wait a minute, there's this, company that we're talking about, but I know I have heard some shady about them in the past. I can go look and, all that stuff comes up. And it's really easy and tagged and all that stuff for us to do it. And we keep that information, especially, bigger articles, as a pro or a con for a company. We actually keep them targeted, tagged, and linked to that company in our CRM. So we know the minute we go pull them up, oh, okay, here's the, it's not a PowerPoint, gamer husband. It's a Google sheet. It's a big difference. But, we know.
Gamer. Jeez.
Get it right, man. We know up front, where there's going to be issues. As you're going through this, just some, points and things that you need to be looking at. When companies send you references, ignore them. Everybody out there who's watching this has written up references for an employer or for a potential client. How many times did you put the guy that you didn't have a good relationship with, that you left on nasty terms and you can't stand each other? You never put that person in your references. It's always the people that had a really good experience. Both of you had a really good experience. That is worthless to you as someone who is looking to hire somebody, in there, so yeah, exactly. It's completely caught me off guard with that one.
It's my job to listen.
Go through and look at the people that are on their website, other people that that have worked with them, and call them directly, talk to them directly, and say, ask those questions that you want to know the answers to. Was it good? Did they pay on time? Was the level of work that they did up to your, expectations? Go and take that extra step to go beyond what just kind of gets handed over in a PowerPoint or a pitch deck. I mean, that's the reason I stopped doing pitch decks here. We'll talk to publishers or developers or some service providers. They're like, do you have a deck on what you do? And I was like, yeah, but I stopped sending it out years ago. If you want to know what we do, it's right there on our website. We have a whole section of our, website that is listed, full of companies that we've worked with over the last 7 years. Look at that versus me just telling you something, because I know it's pointless for me to tell you. Hopefully it's pointless. So, but yeah, I mean, and LinkedIn is a good way to find people that aren't necessarily at that company anymore, but were at some point in time. So, and don't be afraid to just reach out and ask. And you don't have to ask any like super private information. Just say, hey, look, we're looking to work with this person or this company. I know that you've been there in the past. What can you tell me? Was it good or was it bad? And maybe they'll answer you, maybe they don't, but you never know until you try. So, as you're going through, make sure that you're not only doing the research on the companies, but you're doing the research on the individuals as well. Understand, how they treat their clients, how they treat their vendors. It's the, adage that, when women go out and on a date, they can get a sense of what their, date is like by the way the date treats the, server. It's things like that, understanding, how they've worked, were they easy to work with, that sort of stuff. Years ago that we had a senior level executive, see how vague I can make this, who, would constantly, throw his employees under the bus, even when the employee had absolutely nothing to do with it. We'd had a client come down and, this executive just completely threw the project manager, to the wolves in front of the client and just berated him and was just basically, a complete and utter asshole, for lack of a better word. The takeaway from that wasn't that, that executive was clearly not somebody you wanted to work with for a long time, but that exchange where he, tried to defer the blame over to the project manager actually cost us that client because the client knew better. And, they were like, no, this is over. We're not going to continue this relationship. So, it's interactions like that don't necessarily happen in a Twitter war or, on Reddit, that happen, behind closed doors in a, conference room, that you need to be able to get to the bottom of and find out and see, put it in your spreadsheet, figure it out, but factor that in when you're looking over, all this stuff. Oh, beer break.
Oh, gamer.
You're free to heckle. You're free to heckle it. Don't worry about it. All right. So you found your person, your company, your whoever, your partner, and this is gonna, skew towards games because that's what we do. But whatever. When you're doing your agreement, make sure you've got the basics covered. What is the game? What platform is it on? The languages that it's in. Price in terms of how much you're getting paid up front. If there are guaranteed minimums on the retail price, if now you absolutely have to factor in live ops. So it's not, if you're doing a game for a publisher, it's not just your budget to get it out the door, but it's also your budget, per month to keep new content flowing in, where they can actually sell it. We don't do territories as much as we used to because everything's digital now, but, on which stores and in what languages is also, absolutely key. Who's going to own the IP? Who's going to, when are you going to get paid? And, what triggers those payments? Net receipts and revenue share, the milestone payments. And this is where I see a lot of developers make big mistakes. Most contracts are still geared to, you basically work a month, you hit a milestone, you get paid. What happens is you work a month, somebody comes in and changes something, your schedule goes wrong. Well, now all of a sudden the milestones that you had to find in the contract, theirs aren't even remotely possible, because you can sit down and, it's changed. The scope of the game has changed. And so you start getting these delays on getting payments. And all of a sudden, where you had your business focused at getting X amount of dollars per month, it's 3 months before you see a payment, because not only was there all sorts of iterations going on the back end to what was due, your contract also says that, they have to pay you 30 days, within 30 days of you invoicing it. So you have to factor that in. We always, for our clients, recommend that there's a change order language, in there. If there is something that the partner wants changed in the game that goes beyond the scope of what was in the milestones, then it has to be signed off on, and new payments, terms have to be addressed, so you don't get in these problems. Because I've seen it happen, where developers don't get paid a lot of money because, certain milestones weren't met, but those milestones were basically axed at the, from the publisher stand, not necessarily due to anything that they did. So, that's kind of like where you have to be careful. When we talk about net receipts, it's more along the lines of, when you're getting 70% of net receipts from revenue, what's coming out of that revenue? Steam share? Is it this arbitrary marketing, costs. I mean, we had a publisher that used to like try to put marketing expenses in net receipts. There's like no definition of what that actually was. And we found out it was like flex to conferences and they would try to write off the booth that they did. It was completely should have been on their dime, not anybody else's. And chocolate eclairs, that would be good. Anyway,
that does sound good. That sounds like a good beer.
Doesn't it? But you got to factor all this stuff in. And when you're doing the agreement, don't be a dick, basically, is the word, the phrase that we want to use. Know your client, understand, if you understand what they're good at and what they're not good at, day one, you're going to be able to build a better agreement for both of you. Clarify deliverables, know what you're going to be making from it, be responsive to them, and make sure they're responsive to you. When you're starting a relationship with any partner, if, they're not being responsive and it's taking like 3 days to get an email returned, newsflash, it ain't gonna get better when, things don't suddenly magically turn around because you have a contract, but understand what they need, what they're good at. Don't hand over rights that they don't need. So if I'm doing a first-person shooter and we're not going to sell it in Russia, or we're not doing a Russian version, the publisher doesn't need the Russian rights unless they are planning to go ahead and localize it and put it out on their own network. If don't needlessly hand out these rights, and we saw this years ago. More the agents are much better about it now, but we would go to get the IP to books, from authors, and I didn't go to the publishers, because I knew if I went to Simon and Schuster or Penguin or whoever the book publisher was, and I said I want to do a game based on this book, whether they had the rights or not, they were going to say they did, and then go back and get them from the agent. And so we would go straight to the agent. And so one of two things would happen. The agent would go, oh, that's actually covered in our representation agreement or our publishing agreement with so-and-so publishers. You should talk to them, and here's the person you should talk to. Or, yeah, the publisher has it, but we own the game rights, or those rights weren't conveyed over when we did the publishing agreement. And so now all of a sudden you don't have to deal with a big publisher. And the only thing that you're really out is, you can't use the book art, because I haven't seen a lot. I would say that you're not going to get the publisher to help you promote it, but I don't see a lot of book publishers promoting games based on their stuff anyway. So, it's always key to understand what everybody's good at. And that's where all that front end research comes from. What we got next? Oh, all right. So yeah, once you're, in the relationship, how to, we could do a whole show on this.
That don't be a dick thing probably should be number one.
Yes. Right? But, and it's also, especially if you're at a bigger company, it's like, how involved do you personally need to be? I mean, we've got clients that come into our firm, some of them that I handle personally, day to day, and some of them that I don't, and that's partly because, we've got people on our team that do certain things a lot better than I do, or, have more time than I do to do this sort of stuff. So you need to understand how involved you need to be, but you can't ever be, especially if you're in charge, you can never be completely out of the loop, and you have to be good at managing those expectations along the way. We worked with an IP, and this is the biggest issue I see in conversations and relationships between IP holders and game companies, is we come from two different industries. We've got two sets of verbiage. We don't frequently understand what the other one actually needed. And so that's where we come in a lot of times, is because we do understand both sides of it. And we can say, okay, they're saying this, but they mean this. But we had we were in pre-production looking at concept art. So it was like early pre-production. And the client was just absolutely flying off the hook and rejecting everything. And we finally sat down and said, what is the issue? Because, you're giving us these parameters to do the concept art, and we feel that we're doing it within those parameters. where's the issue? Well, the colors aren't, the right colors for our client. It's like, that doesn't matter right now. We're looking at overall look and feel, how buildings are designed. Are we going an Art Deco look or like some Cold War stone, concrete, whatever? We can fix the colors. There's other things that we need to look at in here. And so, that's where a lot of this stuff has, built from in our, experience. You have to be able to accurately manage expectations. Everybody likes to use the word vertical slice. Everybody has a different definition of what that is. When you're going and you're building that first document, and that even if it's a milestone or if it's, we typically do the game overview as the first milestone. And that way there aren't a bunch of completely, frankly, made up milestone objectives that are in a contract. But, you need to be able to say, be clearly saying, okay, is this vertical slice going to have one level with 3 characters, or is it going to have 4 levels with 1 character? Define what it is so everybody's on the same page, because that's where you can get the furthest off the rails. Is where one person on the other team was expecting something that's not remotely what they got, regardless of that, whether it was what they were supposed to get or not. It wasn't defined and everybody wasn't on the same page. And so expectations weren't managed, and it causes a big problem. Easiest way to do this is to have at least a meeting once a week where you're going, this is what we're working on. Does any of this need to be changed? Are we all still on the same page here? That sort of level. And that's where we get into, managing that tactical as well as the strategic. That strategic is, we're trying to put out a 3-game series that's going to be great. It's going to easily appeal to users, players of blah, blah, blah. But the tactical is on that week to week, in your scrum meetings, or if you're using Agile or whatever you use for project management, making sure all the little pieces are fitting together to get there. And, you can't flip out. And I've done it, I've completely lost my on clients, and bosses at some point in time. I've had it lost on me, many times. But you got to understand, if they're yelling and screaming or you're yelling and screaming about something, what is the real reason? Because a lot of times when you find out what that real reason is, it's a lot easier to solve than, this big, massive other issue that pops up. And so, again, going back to understanding what your strengths are and their strengths are in that early research phase helps to do this. And then, communicate and don't be a dick. I want Gamer Husband to, this is like one of those, what do they do on The Daily Show or Saturday Night Live, where they had a clip that they were showing and then it had like a little verbiage that came up at the bottom that was commenting on it the whole way. I'm about to die laughing reading about the chocolate eclairs that we're going to have in our project here.
Everybody needs chocolate eclairs.
I didn't even want one until we started talking about it. Now I want one. So, overall, use a cost-benefit analysis to figure out what you really need. Use those true needs that you have to define your target. Use that task breakdown, research from doing your due diligence on the partner to define the things that are going to be the deliverables. Take those deliverables to define your contract, and then use all of it together to do your project management. That's the way we do things here. When I send someone a proposal, part of that proposal is verbatim what I'm putting into the contract for the deliverables. And that keeps everybody on the same page. There's no, well, I thought you meant this, but maybe you didn't and you meant that. None of that is an issue. It's a matter of, it's clear from the get-go and you build on it each step of the way. And at the end of the day, you're in the best possible position to carry on and to have a wonderful, successful partnership. The end.
The end. Success. That was a good presentation. I learned a lot, actually.
You can't use what I'm saying against me when you start sending me agreements now.
I'm taking notes.
That's not what we're at the questions phase.
Use against you.
I had that happen.
Oh, Paul.
I kid you not. when in that period of time where we went from being an agency to a publisher, I was, part of the reason I didn't stay at that publisher long is because I was doing the job of like 5 people. Part of what I was doing was, bringing in new titles, and I was negotiating with a developer on the acquisition rights, for a project and the terms and all this stuff. And he's like, but here in this book that you wrote, you said developers should never do blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I'm not arguing it, but now I'm like on the other end of the table and it's coming to bite me in the ass. So I've actually had that happen. All right, so what's Gamer Husband say? Oh, you're cleaning, you can't see. Hold on. So what happens when a client who you have done all this,
that is called
how do you deal with a client being a dick?
The asshole tax, isn't that?
There is the asshole tax.
That's top
the asshole
secret.
tax.
We want, I thought that was secret.
It's not a secret. It's I've used it repeatedly. The what I refer to as the asshole tax is what when you're doing that sheet up front and you're figuring out your cost benefit and all this other stuff. One of those X factors is this client going to take a lot of my time, or is it going to be a pain in the ass to deal with this client? And then you put an added surcharge on it for the asshole tax. When you've got a client being a dick, the first thing that you have to do is you got to have thick skin, because if you're on calls and you're getting berated and your immediate response is no fuck me, no fuck you, then that's never going to turn out well. So you've always got to kind of sit there and go, okay, because then that's when you get into what's the real issue. And a lot of times you'll find that real issue isn't that big a deal. There's also a whole class of people that I've dealt with over the last 20 years who will write the most scathing emails, and they're just absolutely all up in your grill. If you pick up the phone and call them, all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, no, it's not really that big a deal. You have to understand what type of person they are, which goes back to that research. Ideally, this going into the partnership. 9 times out of 10, you won't, unless it's like your second go round with, somebody. But, the main thing is not to knee jerk. And we had, that same senior executive that I talked about earlier had a horrible knee jerk reflex, and it would, if an issue was raised, there was immediately something we were going to do about it, even if we're sitting there going, this isn't really that big a deal. This was not the issue when we discovered the, rub your crotch and the peas all over everything, the day we were launching the game. That knee-jerk reaction was appropriate. But a lot of the other ones, you just kind of have to, get out, walk away, take a break, and I'm the same way. My initial, when something happens, my initial response is absolutely, I'm like anger in that, Inside Out Disney movie. It's the fire's coming out on top of my head and I'm ready to go to war. But I know better at this stage of my career than to go out the front door with that, perception. And so, I'll just sit back and go, okay, take a walk, do what you need to do, come back and think about, what's being said, why was it being said? And, is there a very basic communication issue in this?
You can't afford to be right. You need to pay the bills. You can either be right or you can be happy.
You can be both if you do it right. Not all the time, but some of the time you can. The biggest thing is always communication, though. I mean, that's without a doubt. The projects that I've seen go the most sideways are the ones that had, shitty communications on both sides of the table. Anybody else?
Any other questions? If not, that's fine. We have some cool stuff tomorrow, right?
Yes. So we've got the hidden level. It's going to be here. We're giving away 2 copies of their games. Ooh. There's no eclairs. Unfortunately,
Well, we'll have them. We'll have them.
The eclairs are a the eclairs are a lie. So we're going to give away 2 copies of they have a very, very long name. The Veil That Pierced Her Heart. Is that the name of the game?
No. It is. Hold on.
Was I even remotely close?
I don't know. It is. Let's see here. The Void Rains Upon Her Heart. Oh no!
I was close. I was very close.
Dang it! My document didn't update when I. Oh, I don't know which key it is. That is the.
You're driving me to drink, Andy.
No, you're driving down to get your own keg.
I told you, very important. Indy and I were doing our pre-show, checklist, and I told him I had to take a very important call, and I left the mic on so he could hear it. And I was basically calling the store that called me this morning that said my new keg had arrived. I was like, all right, I'll be down there later today to get it.
He's all, yeah, this is Jay. No, last name or anything. Yeah, it's Jay.
I feel like I'm the only person up here that has a kegerator. There are other,
other Jays.
Yeah, there has to be. Surely I'm not that well known already.
Surely.
All right. So, can we put this deck up online somewhere, Andy?
Yes, I did put it online, and let me actually give you guys a link to the deck. Oh wait, is that it? Or wait a minute.
I have no idea. I just work here.
Let's see. Let me just make sure it's the right one. Yeah. Here's the link to the deck. Here's the link.
You keep
that's the wrong link.
That's
it didn't copy.
What is that link? Let's see what that link is.
Oh, that's the link. Well, I was going to show you for new alerts that I want for IGB.
Oh. For $5, I think we can pull that off.
Yeah.
We need one more person to sub. Gamer Husband, sub so I can afford these $5
foot long.
$5 foot longs. $5 eclairs. But yeah.
Eclairs in front of you.
So there it is. You can always find us if you've got questions on our Discord server. I would say, if anything, that Twitter's probably like the worst way to try to get a hold of me because I rarely check it. But I'm always on Discord.
Bam!
So,
look at that. Serious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you get to use the lovely emote right here.
You're the man.
Bam.
Now you too can love indie games.
Yeah. You have to you have to sub to be able to love indie games.
Hey, look. That's the ones I sub out too. It's okay. Well, I mean, if that's it, let's see who's out there that we can raid.
Okay.
Gama Sutra is playing Chasm.
What are we looking at? Game devs, or what are we looking at?
I was just looking at, the first page. First and foremost. Let's go to the game development group. Let's see here. Making a game about saving lost followers. So this is where, I know my expertise. I do the IP and the licensing and the contract and all that kind of good stuff. I don't do the coding. Do you want to pick one? Indy?
I mean, sure. Let's do this one. We'll do it. I'll type it in there.
All right. Thanks for following. We'll be around tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
We do it every Wednesday, Thursday.